Good morning. Welcome to So You Want to Be an Author on Get Real with Tracy. I hope that you've had a great week and able to do some of the things we discussed in the first video about creating your writing space, that you've been able to find a good place that's nice and clean and distraction free, that will be signal your brain that this is writing time and the place for you to write. And I also hope that you've been able to get some time set aside for that as well. And that you also came up with your why. What is your why? Why do you want to write? What is your purpose? And what is your calling? Hopefully, you were able to get your little elevator speech done on those, about 2 to 3 sentences on those, what your why, your purpose, and your calling is. Today, I want to go over a few tools. I'm not sure if I discussed this in the first video, but it bears worth being repeated. But one of the software programs I like to use, and we'll be getting into probably next week, will be using Microsoft Whiteboard, which is the tool that I use to outline my books. And it's very helpful whether you're doing nonfiction or fiction. You can develop your characters there. You can get your main points on your in your book, and supporting information and facts and all the little details, the filler things that you need to go in to make your book a successful. The other programs that I will talk about too that you can use for your word processing would be either Microsoft Word. One thing I really like about Microsoft Word is it has a very nice read out loud feature. And that comes in handy to me because I am an auditory learner as well as visual. So it helps me to be able to hear what is being read and follow along as it's reading it. It just helps me absorb it a lot better. And then Microsoft Word, it does work pretty well, although it's very glitchy. But any of these programs are going to have glitches, I'll tell you that. So just plan on that, and you'll just have to figure out which one is the least of evils for you. Google Docs is a great place to also write. And the nice thing about Google Docs is it automatically saves. So, like with Microsoft Word, you have to be like Jesus and always save your work. And believe me, drive that point home to always save, because this girl has been in that situation where I've put in tons of work and forgot to save, and then my computer crashed or something happened, the software froze and glitched, and boom, all my work was gone. So make sure you always save no matter what. Even with Google Docs, it's probably good to stay in the habit and not get, you know, sidetracked and thinking, oh, well, it's auto saving. Do it yourself too. It's always good to do that. Google Docs is great for collaboration. So, like if you need to bring an editor in, it's really easy for them to access because it's all on the cloud. You can also store Microsoft Word on the cloud if you want, which I would imagine may be a little bit easier to do collaboration. I haven't used that feature, so I don't know for sure. If any of you know the answer to that, please comment below so we all can be enlightened on that. Google Docs, the one thing I would say about it that I do not care for is their read aloud function does not work well. And also, Google Docs and Microsoft Word do not play well together. Going back and forth between the two of them is very frustrating because they will not hold formatting. Things will look a little bit different. Your context will be the same, but if you're trying to do layouts of any kind, when you transfer from Google Docs to Word and vice versa, they're not gonna play well together. When I was in the author school, we used Google Docs because we had coaches who would be looking at some of our work, and that we had to make it available to them. But I preferred Microsoft Word because it had the read out loud feature that I really needed for myself. So pick whichever one works for you and choose it, but kind of probably stick with one. Don't go back and forth. It'll drive you crazy, just like it did me. So, anyway, welcome to my crazy world. Another product I want to talk about is called Atticus, and that's an interesting program. There's a few things I don't like about it. Is it's only stored on the cloud like Google. You can export it to your computer, but it's exported as a JSON file. So you always have to open it in Atticus. So if something were to happen to that program, it's made by Kindlepreneur. So I think it's a pretty stable program that's going to be around, and they're improving it immensely. So you can write in it. You can do internal layouts in it. They have some templates that you can use and do that if that's the kind of how you want your book to look. You can do that all right there. um, they're going to be adding in a collaboration feature, which would be very interesting, because working with my editor, it is really nice to be able to have them be able to just go in and collaborate, and something that would track changes, which Microsoft Word does really well. I'm not sure about Google Docs on that because I didn't use it for that feature. During the editing process, we were emailing back and forth one chapter at a time. And it is also better to write one chapter at a time in a document and save it separately, because when you do bring it in to your internal layouts, it's much easier to lay out your document, and then you can combine it. I use Adobe InDesign for my internal layout, so it makes it very easy for me to combine it into one document for print. And then I have it all print ready. It's ready to go. So make sure you check those out. Make sure you get your Microsoft Whiteboard. If you don't have a computer and you don't have the whiteboard, you can use Post-it notes. They make those big white sheets that you can get your regular little old Post-it notes, and you can color code like your big points or your characters with one color. Maybe if you're doing a character, their personality is another color, the plot line is another color, and so forth. You can plot it out that way. I'm a nonfiction writer at this point. I may dabble in fiction at some point, but right now it's nonfiction. So for me, I'm looking for the big ideas. What are the main points that I want to cover in each chapter that supports the title of my book, but also the title of the chapter? And that helps me get that blocked out. And then I put in what are some another color would be supporting uh, information and facts and text that would support my main ideas. And then another color would be just some filler, maybe scripture or maybe quotes, things like that that can really fit in and fill out the chapter. So you can use Post-it notes to do that as well. So make sure you do that. And again, I can't drive home the point of always saving, no matter what you're using. Oh, by the way, on Atticus, that is not a free program. It costs $147. But let me tell you what else it does. So you can write your book in it, you can lay out your interior pages, you can add graphics and images to your book, and it can create print books and ebooks with these. So those are the four big main points on it, but it's $147 to purchase that. I may look into that in the future, but right now I'm not sure I want to go that direction. I think I'll stick with what I'm working with right at the moment. Another tool that I definitely recommend is some kind of a grammar tool. I was I started out with Grammarly, because it's free and it's well known and you hear about it all the time. But then I found ProWritingAid, and it is a great grammar checker that goes beyond grammar. It goes into structure, and it also has some AI prompts if you get stuck. It can give you, like, I tend to write in complex sentences. Yeah, I'm kind of complex. But anyway, it will pick those up and it will offer some suggestions, some rewrites that you can do. So those AI prompts are just merely suggestions of what you can do to rewrite. So it helps me go, oh, okay, I understand, I get it now. And then I can write it in my own words, but in a format that is not complex. So they do have a free version and they also have a pro version. So the pro version costs about $120 a year. So plan that out because you're going to need to keep a budget here. Grammarly has a free version as well, and they do have a pro version. One of the things that's nice about Grammarly, and I do believe maybe ProWritingAid has this as well. I haven't looked to see, it might be in the pro version, but a citation generator. So if you're quoting people or quoting songs or quoting a book, that citation generator is really nice to have because all you have to do is plug in the information. It'll kick out the citation. You can choose whether it's APA, Chicago, or MLA, I believe is what it is. So Chicago is typically the type that my editor has been using, so that's what we go with. So it's a very nice little handy tool, and the citation generator is free as well. So then we have a plagiarism checker, which I'm not sure if ProWritingAid has that or not, but that costs money. You have to pay extra for that. And I'm sorry I didn't get what the cost is on that for you, but you can look it up. Another program that you're going to want to have is some kind of a graphics program. I use the Adobe line of products because I've been a graphic designer and web developer for 28 years. So I use Adobe Photoshop and Adobe InDesign. Those are the two main ones that I use the most. But there is also Canva, and Canva is free. I think Photoshop's going to cost you like $9.99 a month. If you want InDesign, however, it's going to cost you more. I just do the where I get the full gamut of Adobe products because I'm going to be doing my own audiobooks. So I'll have Adobe Audition that I'll be using for that. And so I'll be doing that on my own. We'll see how that goes. That'll be an interesting little journey, and I will share with you on that as well. So wanted to make sure you look at that. And again, we talked about the why, knowing yourself, why, what is your message? Make sure you have all those things in your head, why you want to write and what the purpose of writing is all about. So once you have that in your head, I suggest that you print it out on a piece of paper and frame it and put it on your desk so you have it there. What is your why? What is your purpose? And what is your calling? Because you will need to remind yourself of these things for sure. So anyway, make sure you do keep those on your desk where you see them and it will remind you. So next step, this is the toughie. One of the things in my author school that I was disappointed they didn't address from the get-go, and I wish that they would have, because it is something you are going to face if you want to be a writer. You are going to have to build an author business. Yes, a business. So I'm going to take you into what those steps are to get you set up properly so you can do this from the start. And then, you will have that mindset in there that you're going to have to do all these other things as well. So the first thing that you want to do is create a business entity. And you can register that with whatever state you're in. And if you're in another country, then you'll have to look and see how things are set up in your country because I'm not familiar with it. I'm only familiar with the US. And the state that I live in, the Secretary of State website is where I go to register. So you'll have to just search for being able to register a business. There are two ways that you can do, well, there's more than two ways, but these are the two main ones that I think you would probably need is you can choose to do a sole proprietor LLC, and that will cost you about $100 if you're in my state, which check and see how much it's going to cost in your state. But just I'm throwing these numbers out there so you can, again, start putting a budget together, because you are going to have to spend money to get your book published and onward. So plan to start a budget. I have a sole proprietor LLC under my business Image by Design, which has been my graphic design business. I am going to be doing author services, where I'll be offering services to do internal layouts, cover designs, and then podcasting training, more of the author training. I'm also going to have audiobook training as well when I get into that. So you can, I have it under my LLC because then it protects my name personally, my personal assets. Make sure you talk with your accountant, or if you have a lawyer, talk with them as to what's the best way for you to go. You may be pushed into a S corp, but I don't know that a S corp is necessary at this point. Maybe down the road it will be, and that is something you will want to look into. The other thing that you need to do is you can also do a DBA, which is doing business as, and you can use your author name or your pen name, or if you have a brand, you could brand it and do it that way. And that in my state costs about $25. So look into either one of those two. Make sure you talk to your accountant or a lawyer to make sure you're doing what is going to protect you the most. I don't know, as being an author, depending on what you're writing about, I think would be the most important thing, because if you're writing medical books or textbooks where there could be liability on your shoulders, you definitely want to get an LLC. If you're writing fiction, I mean, it's fiction. So that's something you're going to have to discuss with your accountant or a lawyer and figure out what is the best entity for you to register with the state. Okay, so I've mentioned budget a lot. So I'm going to give you a few costs of what has happened to me. Oh, let me talk about one more important thing that you need for the business entity. You need to get a seller's permit from the State Tax Commission. And this will enable you to be able to sell your books online, and you will have to pay sales tax on them. Yep, government loves to get their sales tax, so make sure you do that. Now, depending on who you publish through, uh, like if you're doing Amazon KDP, it may be something that they cover and they collect the sales tax, and maybe they file that. I've got to look into that a little bit more, but it's always good to have a seller's permit. If you do a book signing or a book launch and you sell directly to the public, you're going to need to have one of those. So it's a good idea for you to get those anyways. And one of the good things that I learned from an accountant, Carla Davis is her name. She's on a YouTube channel. And I listened to her talk about how authors and books are passive income. So in our state, we have a pretty high self-employment tax that you have to pay, and it's that way in a lot of states. So make sure you check into that as well. But passive income is not considered, it's passive income, so it doesn't fall under the self-employment tax, which is like 12.3% or 12.6%, something like that. It's crazy, and you have to pay that full thing. So make sure you check into that as well. And I will link Carla down below. I will warn you, I did sign up to have a introductory call with them to see if they might be a good fit for me to move my accounting to them, because I really appreciated how clear and how concise they are with the information that they've been giving, and I wanted to just see if that was a possibility. And let me tell you, they kind of spammed me on email. So I ended up unsubscribing from them. They do have good information though, and it's worth watching the YouTube. So I will put a link below so you can follow up on that and see what you think as well. As always, make sure you talk to your own accountant. So find one if you don't have one. All right, now to the budget. Setting the budget. And you need to set aside a savings for this because it's going to come, it's not all going to come at once. So I know this when I get into this, it's going to be kind of like overwhelming. But remember, it doesn't come at once. It's like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? And that's basically what has happened with me, one bite at a time. I've spent a lot of money, though, on my book so far, and we're just hopefully getting published next week. I keep saying that, and it keeps getting delayed. That's just the nature of it, so expect delays, okay? So, first of all, one of the things you need to budget for and make sure that you do is hire a good editor. That is worth your weight in gold, and that is going to make the difference in your book being a bestseller or a mediocre book. So, editing is important. And there are different types of editors. There are grammatical editors, there are structural editors, there are developmental editors, and then there's proofreading. So, there are those four different aspects of editing. The editor I used did all four, which was worth it for me. And when you see what I ended up spending with her, I feel like I really got a good deal because she elevated my book from way down here to way up here beyond. It's great what she's done with my book while keeping my voice, by the way, which is really, really important that you find a good editor that is going to keep your voice and not change it to their voice. So that's challenging to find. And I hope to have some editors available in my author services platform on Image by Design when I get to that point of offering those services. Not quite there yet. I'm in the works of getting that pulled together. So keep checking back and I will let you know when we're live on that. But your editing is going to cost anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 plus. It just depends on how many words you have in your book. I ended up spending 2,000 and I had 28,000 words. So that's a lot of money. She started out charging me by the word count, but the type of work that she was doing, because she was doing the grammatical and the structural and developmental kind of all together, mostly the first two. So it took a lot longer for her as it would if you have someone who's just doing grammar. That goes by fast. But your pro writing aid is going to get most of those issues. Oh, the one thing I like about the pro writing aid is I grew up in the era where it's two spaces after a period, and now it's only one. So my brain keeps doing the two spaces because that's how I've done it all my life. And so now I have to retrain my brain, and thank God for ProWritingAid catching that because Grammarly did not. So make sure you do set aside some cash for your editing because that's really important. The next thing that's equally important is your cover design. Now, you can do it in Canva, or you can use, there's a lot of programs and services out there, you can go to and you can use to have them design your cover, or you can also hire a graphic designer to do it as well. The thing about your cover is you want to make sure that it really speaks to what your book is about. My book is Hope's Transformative Power. Excuse me on that. Anyway, I picked this cover because the girl in the picture, to me, she's had a tough hand dealt to her. Obviously, she's carrying a suitcase and out in the middle of nowhere. But the she's looking up to the sunshine. She feels great. She feels that, okay, I can do this. I can handle this. And that's what hope does for you. It helps transform you and gives you the courage and the strength to press forward in the midst of tough circumstances. So this is why I put her on the cover, because to me it really spoke volumes, and it speaks to kind of a testimony of what I went through and how hope transformed my life. So that's why I wrote about this book, because I have a lot of background in going through adversity and struggles. So I've learned definitely how to hold on to hope and how to trust God and see Him work miracles in my life. So your cover design is crucial, that it really speaks to what your book is about and really kind of invites people in and helps them to say, "Oh, I really like that. That looks interesting." So it's a hook. It's a hook that you have to really pull people in. So make sure you use it, as well as choosing the title of your book. Make sure it's something that's going to transform or that's going to pull people in. My book has a subtitle, and it's called Overcoming Hopelessness and Empower Your Life with Hope, Faith, and Love. So pick good titles and subtitles that will also hook people in and want them to learn more about your book. So on your cover design, it's not only the front cover, it's your spine, and it's also the back cover. And on your back cover, you want to have a very good hooked description, something that's going to hook your readers in. Why do they want to read your book? What's going to pull them in? So make sure you do that as well. And that is something your editor should be also editing as well, from cover to cover, everything, because my editor caught some things that I missed in my titles. So make sure you do that. The next thing will be interior layouts. And again, that's going to go off of the number of pages that you have, your word count. Interior layouts, let me tell you, it can be challenging. I'm discovering that on my own as well. And you're going to pay anywhere between about 1,000 to 2,500 plus. And this is what the average is for the industry. I've checked it up for you, and so you could have that. The nice thing about interior layouts is not only will it give you a print version, but it also should give you an ebook. That's important to try and get both. So make sure whoever you have do your internal layouts and interior layouts, that they will also do the print and the ebooks. And then also in your interior layouts, you're going to have, if you're doing paperback and if you're doing hardcover, because they are different sizes and there's different parameters. Make sure whoever is your publisher, if you are going to do this yourself, then you need to pay attention to this stuff.